Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where stress, setbacks, and uncertainty are not exceptions, they are part of the design. Some people crumble under the weight of these challenges, while others rise stronger, wiser, and even more determined. What makes the difference? It isn't talent, luck, or intelligence. It's resilience, the ability to recover quickly, adapt, and keep moving forward no matter how heavy the storm feels. Resilience is not something you are born with, it's something you build like a muscle. And just like any muscle, it grows when tested. Today, I want to share with you 10 proven ways to develop that resilient mind. First, reframe adversity. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what can this teach me? The shift from victimhood to growth changes everything. You stop seeing yourself as powerless and start viewing challenges as stepping stones. Second, cultivate gratitude daily. Gratitude doesn't erase problems, but it shifts perspective. When you start appreciating the small victories, your mind becomes less consumed with the weight of loss and more energized by possibility. Third, embrace the power of routine. In chaos, routine provides stability. Whether it's journaling, exercising, or meditating, daily rituals anchor you when the world feels unsteady. Fourth, build strong connections. Resilience is rarely built in isolation. Having people who support you, challenge you, and remind you of your worth creates a safety net. We are wired for connection. Resilience thrives in community. Fifth, practice emotional regulation. Resilient minds are not free of emotion, but they know how to manage it. Instead of reacting impulsively, they pause, breathe, and respond with clarity. Sixth, set meaningful goals. A resilient mind doesn't only endure hardship, it moves towards something. When you have a vision, setbacks feel like detours, not dead ends. Purpose keeps you walking even when the path is steep. Seventh, accept what you cannot control. Energy wasted on things outside your influence drains your strength. Instead, focus on what is within your control, your actions, your choices, and your mindset. Eighth, embrace failure as feedback. Resilient people don't fear failure, they treat it as a teacher. Every misstep carries information. The question isn't, did I fail? It's, what did I learn that will make me stronger tomorrow? Ninth, take care of your body. A resilient mind cannot thrive in an exhausted body. Sleep, nutrition, and movement fuel mental clarity and emotional strength. Your mind and body are not separate systems, they are one. Finally, 10th, stay adaptable. Life will never move in straight lines. The ability to bend without breaking, to adjust without losing your essence, is what defines true resilience. Resilience is not about being unshakable. It is about being flexible, adaptive, and unyielding in your commitment to rise again. When you train your mind in these ways, challenges stop being threats, they become invitations to grow. So the next time life pushes you down, remember this: resilience isn't about never falling, it's about always getting back up. 5 keynotes of the speech: reframe adversity as an opportunity to learn and grow. Build resilience through gratitude, routine, and supportive connections. Regulate emotions and focus energy only on what can be controlled. Embrace failure's feedback and fuel your journey with purpose. Strengthen mind and body together while staying adaptable to change. Reframing adversity is one of the most powerful ways to build a resilient mind because it changes the entire lens through which we see the world. When hardship strikes, the natural human reaction is often to feel victimized, defeated, or overwhelmed. We ask questions like, why me? Or why now? These questions are not wrong, but they trap us in a cycle of helplessness. Reframing adversity is about shifting those questions toward growth. What is this here to teach me? Or how can I grow stronger from this? That shift in perspective doesn't erase the pain, but it gives it purpose. Instead of letting the challenge define you, you define how you respond to it. This mental pivot is the very heart of resilience. Think of any great leader, innovator, or individual you admire. Almost all of them face deep adversity. What separated them from those who gave up wasn't that their struggles were smaller. It was that they chose to reframe what those struggles meant. They saw obstacles not as permanent roadblocks, but as teachers disguised in difficulty. For instance, an entrepreneur whose business fails can sink into despair, blaming the economy, the competition, or their own shortcomings. Or they can reframe the failure as a set of lessons about what not to do next time, adjusting their strategy and coming back sharper. The second response doesn't make the loss easier, but it transforms the meaning of the event, and meaning is everything. When we face adversity, our brains tend to exaggerate the negative. Psychologists call this negativity bias, the tendency to focus more on what went wrong than what went right. Reframing adversity is like training the brain to challenge that bias. Imagine someone losing their job. The immediate frame is devastation, fear, and uncertainty. But if they reframe, they might say, this is painful, but maybe this is the push I needed to pursue the career I've always wanted. That reframe doesn't deny the hardship, but it creates room for opportunity within it. And once the mind accepts that possibility, the individual begins to act differently, seeking, creating, and innovating instead of shrinking away in defeat. This doesn't mean putting a false smile on pain or pretending everything is positive. Reframing is not about denial, it's about interpretation. Life's most difficult moments are often objectively hard, sometimes heartbreaking. But resilience grows when you allow yourself to feel the weight of the challenge while still asking, what can I do with this? How can I use this to shape my growth? A student failing an exam could wallow in shame or reframe it as a wake-up call to study smarter, seek help, or manage time better. The same failure that could crush confidence can instead spark transformation depending on how it is framed. Neuroscience also supports this. Our brains are wired for neuroplasticity, which means they adapt and change based on how we interpret and respond to experiences. If you repeatedly frame adversity as defeat, your brain strengthens the neural pathways of hopelessness. If you frame it as a challenge and opportunity, your brain strengthens the pathways of persistence and problem solving. Over time, reframing becomes second nature and your resilience muscle grows stronger. Reframing also influences the energy you project to others. When you see adversity as a dead end, people around you absorb your despair. But when you face the same adversity with a reframed mindset, viewing it as a path to growth, you inspire others to do the same. Leaders, parents, teachers, and mentors all shape the resilience of those they influence, not by avoiding adversity, but by showing how to reframe it. A parent who loses their job and says to their children, "This is tough, but it's a chance for me to explore new possibilities," models resilience more powerfully than any lecture ever could. Consider how history is filled with stories of individuals who reframed adversity into greatness. Nelson Mandela reframed years in prison as preparation for leadership. Helen Keller reframed her disabilities into a platform for advocacy and education. Ordinary people too use reframing daily. Someone battling illness who uses the struggle to appreciate life more deeply. Or a single parent who reframes financial hardship as motivation to model perseverance for their children. These examples remind us that adversity itself doesn't build resilience, our interpretation of it does. The practice of reframing requires awareness. You must first notice your instinctive reactions to hardship. Do you feel powerless, angry, or hopeless? Acknowledge those feelings, but then step back and ask, is there another way to view this? Is there a hidden opportunity here? This simple pause is often enough to begin the shift. Over time, reframing becomes not just a coping tool, but a mindset, a way of living that turns every challenge into a potential lesson. In essence, reframing adversity is the bridge between pain and growth. It allows us to move from being consumed by hardship to being shaped by it in meaningful ways. It gives suffering context, transforms failure into feedback, and turns setbacks into setups for comebacks. By training yourself to reframe, you do not avoid difficulty, but you ensure that difficulty does not break you. Instead, it builds you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient than before. Cultivating gratitude daily is one of the most underestimated yet powerful ways to strengthen the mind against life's inevitable hardships. Gratitude at its core is a shift of focus. It is choosing to look at what is present instead of what is absent, what is working instead of what is broken, and what is given instead of what is withheld. When you make gratitude a daily practice, you are training your mind to build resilience because you are constantly reminding yourself that even in the middle of pain or loss, there are things worth holding on to, things worth valuing, and things that give you strength to keep moving forward. Most people see gratitude as an emotional reaction, something you feel when good things happen to you. But gratitude is more than a feeling. It is a discipline, an intentional habit. It is easy to be grateful when life is smooth, but the true power of gratitude is revealed when life is hard. The person who has practiced gratitude daily learns how to recognize blessings even in small forms: a supportive friend, a meal on the table, a roof over their head, or even the chance to try again tomorrow. These acknowledgments may seem small, but in moments of adversity, they act as lifelines, pulling you back to hope when despair tries to drag you down. Gratitude works by shifting the story we tell ourselves. For example, if someone loses a job, the immediate story might be one of failure and loss. But when gratitude is applied, the story shifts. Instead of only seeing the loss, they may begin to recognize the opportunity for rest, the lessons learned from the experience, or the chance to explore a new career path they might not have considered. Gratitude doesn't cancel the difficulty, but it rewrites the narrative so that the mind focuses on growth instead of defeat. And when the narrative changes, the emotions change, and eventually so do the actions. Science backs this up. Studies in psychology have shown that gratitude activates regions in the brain associated with dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals that regulate mood and motivation. This means that when you practice gratitude, you are literally wiring your brain to feel stronger, calmer, and more capable in the face of adversity. Over time, this mental rewiring creates resilience because your brain is not stuck in the cycles of stress and negativity that drain energy, but instead is trained to spot the good and use it as fuel. One of the most powerful aspects of gratitude is its ability to put challenges in perspective. A resilient mind doesn't deny pain, but knows how to balance it against what is still good. Imagine someone dealing with a serious illness. Gratitude doesn't make the illness disappear, but it can highlight the love of family members who are standing by their side, the medical help they receive, or the simple gift of another day of life. This perspective doesn't eliminate the hardship, but makes it more bearable, and bearable challenges are the kind you can continue to fight through. That's resilience. Gratitude also builds resilience because it connects us to others. When you regularly express gratitude toward people, relationships deepen. Strong relationships are one of the most important buffers against stress and adversity. A person who feels supported, appreciated, and connected is far more likely to endure hardship than someone who feels isolated. Gratitude strengthens those bonds because it reminds others of their value and in turn creates a circle of support that holds you steady in difficult times. But to truly harness gratitude, it must be practiced daily. Writing down 3 things you're grateful for each morning or reflecting at night on moments of the day that brought you peace may seem like a small habit, but it accumulates power over time. When hardship comes, your mind will already be trained to seek out even the smallest sources of strength and positivity. That habit can be the difference between giving up and pressing forward. Gratitude also reframes failure. When things don't work out, instead of obsessing over what went wrong, gratitude helps you focus on what you gained from the experience, skills, insights, or even just the courage to have tried. This not only softens the blow of setbacks, but also prepares you to approach the next challenge with greater optimism and confidence. People who practice gratitude are more likely to take risks, to keep trying, and to persevere through obstacles because they know that even in failure, something valuable can be found. Another overlooked effect of gratitude is how it strengthens self-compassion. Resilient people are not harshly critical of themselves when they stumble. Gratitude helps you appreciate your own efforts, reminding you that progress, no matter how small, matters. When you learn to be grateful for your own determination, your own persistence, and your own willingness to keep going, you silence the inner critic that says you're not enough. Instead, you affirm yourself with kindness, and that kindness becomes fuel for resilience. Ultimately, cultivating gratitude daily is about creating a mindset that protects you when life tests you. It is about training yourself to see the light even in the darkest seasons. Gratitude doesn't erase the storm, but it reminds you that you are not standing in it empty-handed. It fills your heart with reminders of what still exists, what still matters, and what still gives hope. And when your heart is full of gratitude, your mind becomes far more resilient because it is focused not on what has been lost, but on what can still be built. Embracing the power of routine may seem like a simple idea, but its impact on building a resilient mind is profound. In a world filled with constant change, uncertainty, and unexpected challenges, routines serve as stabilizers. They create a sense of order when everything else feels chaotic. A resilient person does not rely solely on motivation or willpower to get through difficult times. Instead, they anchor themselves in habits and rituals that provide consistency. Routine is not about rigidity. It is about giving the mind and body a reliable structure to lean on when stress, fear, or uncertainty threaten to overwhelm. When life is disrupted, many people find themselves paralyzed, unsure of what to do next. In those moments, routine can act as an anchor. For example, someone experiencing grief may find it nearly impossible to think about the future. But waking up at the same time every day, taking a morning walk, or journaling for 10 minutes creates a rhythm that gives the mind something steady to hold on to. These small, predictable actions send a message to the brain: life goes on, and I am still in control of some parts of it. That sense of control is critical for resilience. It doesn't erase the hardship, but it prevents the hardship from consuming everything. Routine also builds resilience by conserving mental energy. Every decision we make throughout the day consumes willpower. When life is stressful, decision fatigue quickly drains us, leaving little strength for problem solving. But when certain parts of life are automated through routine, such as morning rituals, exercise schedules, or meal planning, you free up mental energy for bigger challenges. This is why many high-performing individuals stick to simple daily habits. Their resilience is strengthened because they don't waste energy on trivial choices, allowing them to focus on what truly matters. Another reason routines are powerful is that they provide a sense of progress. In difficult times, progress often feels impossible because the big problem looms so large. But routines allow you to create micro wins, small achievements that keep momentum alive. A person struggling with depression may not be able to tackle their long-term goals, but they can create a daily routine of making the bed, taking a short walk, and preparing one healthy meal. Each of these acts becomes a victory, a reminder that even in struggle, forward movement is possible. Over time, those small wins accumulate into real progress, fueling hope and resilience. Routine also strengthens resilience through physical well-being. The mind and body are deeply connected, and daily routines like exercise, balanced eating, and consistent sleep directly impact mental health. For example, a routine of going to bed and waking up at the same time regulates the body's circadian rhythm, which improves mood, focus, and emotional stability. An exercise routine not only builds physical strength, but also releases endorphins that reduce stress and anxiety. When the body feels stable and cared for, the mind is better equipped to face adversity. Beyond health, routines also create identity. When you stick to certain rituals, you reinforce to yourself who you are. For instance, if part of your routine is journaling each morning, you begin to see yourself as someone who reflects and learns from experiences. If your routine includes practicing gratitude each night, you begin to identify as a person who seeks positivity even in difficulty. Identity-driven routines make resilience natural because they remind you of your values and strengths when life challenges them. Importantly, routines don't need to be elaborate to be effective. Even the smallest rituals can provide immense stability. Something as simple as starting the day with a few minutes of silence, stretching, or writing a to-do list can ground you. These actions may not solve the larger problems you face, but they act as psychological anchors. They remind you that even in the middle of chaos, you can create order. That realization strengthens resilience because it proves that hardship doesn't have the power to completely dismantle your life. Some people worry that routines make life boring or inflexible, but resilience is not about being unchanging. It's about having a solid foundation to adapt from. In fact, the stronger your routines, the easier it is to adapt when things go wrong because you already have habits that preserve your energy and well-being. For example, if you travel frequently and your work schedule is unpredictable, having a simple exercise or meditation routine that you can take anywhere gives you stability no matter where you are. Routines are portable sources of strength. There is also an emotional reassurance that comes with routine. When you know what to expect in at least some parts of your day, uncertainty in other areas becomes easier to handle. It's like having a safe space within your schedule. A morning ritual of coffee and reflection or an evening walk becomes more than a task, it becomes a sanctuary. These moments give you something to look forward to, reminding you that no matter what the day brings, there will always be pieces of it that are steady, predictable, and within your control. Ultimately, the power of routine lies in its ability to reduce chaos and preserve stability. Life will always throw unpredictable challenges your way, but when you have built daily practices that support your body, mind, and identity, you can bend without breaking. Routine transforms resilience from a vague idea into a daily practice. Each repeated action builds strength, steadiness, and a sense of control. And over time, these seemingly small habits create a foundation so solid that no matter how unpredictable the future becomes, you know you have the tools to withstand it. Building strong connections is one of the most essential ways to develop a resilient mind because human beings are wired for connection. From the moment we are born, we thrive in environments where we feel supported, cared for, and understood. Resilience is often misunderstood as something that comes solely from within, as if the strongest people are those who face hardship completely alone. But in reality, the people who recover, adapt, and thrive in the face of adversity are usually those who have a network of relationships to lean on. Strong connections do not remove difficulty, but they provide the emotional, psychological, and sometimes even physical strength needed to move through it. When you go through moments of stress or pain, isolation tends to amplify the burden. It convinces you that you are alone in your struggle and that no one could possibly understand. But when you have strong connections, those relationships counter the loneliness. A friend who listens without judgment, a mentor who provides perspective, or a family member who offers unconditional support can completely shift the way you interpret your hardship. What once felt unbearable suddenly feels a little lighter, simply because someone else is helping you carry it. This sharing of emotional weight is not a weakness. It is one of the greatest demonstrations of human strength. Strong connections also provide resilience by reminding you of your worth when you forget it. During difficult times, self-doubt and hopelessness can cloud your judgment. You might convince yourself that you are not capable, not strong enough, or not worthy of overcoming the challenge in front of you. But the people who know you best can reflect back your strengths, reminding you of who you are when you lose sight of it. That reflection often becomes the spark that keeps you going. For example, someone struggling to pursue a new opportunity after failure may feel paralyzed by fear, but a trusted friend who says, "I believe in you, and I've seen what you're capable of," can restore the confidence needed to try again. These connections also serve as sources of perspective. When adversity strikes, your own mind can become narrow, fixating on the problem in front of you until it seems insurmountable. But others can often see your situation from a different angle, offering insights you might never consider on your own. A colleague might share how they overcame a similar obstacle, or a family member might point out strengths you are overlooking. These perspectives don't erase the problem, but they expand your sense of possibility. In this way, strong connections are like mirrors and windows, mirrors that reflect your inner strength back to you, and windows that open your view to new solutions. Another way strong connections fuel resilience is through accountability. Resilience is not only about surviving hardship, it's about continuing to move forward despite it. When you have people who hold you accountable, who encourage you to stay consistent with your goals and values, you are less likely to give in to discouragement. For instance, someone committed to a fitness routine as part of their mental health journey may struggle to keep going when stress builds. But a workout partner who shows up each morning ensures that they don't quit. Accountability partners create a sense of shared responsibility that keeps you aligned with your commitments even when you feel like giving up. Supportive connections also create a buffer against stress on a biological level. Studies in psychology and neuroscience have shown that people who maintain close, supportive relationships have lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. Social connection stimulates the release of oxytocin, which calms the nervous system and promotes feelings of safety. This means that having strong connections doesn't just feel good emotionally, it actually strengthens the body's ability to cope with stress, making resilience a physiological reality, not just a mental one. But resilience through connection isn't just about receiving support. It's also about giving it. When you support others through their hardships, you build empathy, compassion, and meaning in your own life. Helping others can remind you of your own capacity to make a difference, which boosts your self-worth and resilience. For example, someone dealing with their own struggles might volunteer to mentor a younger person facing difficulties. By offering support, they reinforce their own sense of purpose and find strength in knowing they can still contribute positively despite their own challenges. Strong connections, however, require intentional effort. They are built on trust, Honesty and reciprocity. A resilient person doesn't wait until crisis strikes to nurture these bonds. They invest in relationships consistently so that when challenges come, the foundation is already there. This means showing up for people, listening actively, and expressing gratitude for those who matter. In doing so, you not only build your own network of resilience, but also become part of someone else's. Ultimately, strong connections remind us that resilience is not a solitary journey. Life's burdens are too heavy to carry alone. And resilience doesn't mean refusing help. It means knowing when to lean on others and when to offer your own strength in return. A resilient mind is not built in isolation, but in the presence of trust, love, and shared humanity. When you have people who stand with you in your darkest hours and when you choose to stand with others in theirs, resilience stops being just an individual trait and becomes a shared power that carries everyone forward. Practicing emotional regulation is one of the most vital skills for building a resilient mind, because resilience is not about avoiding emotions. It is about learning to manage them in ways that strengthen rather than weaken you. Many people think of resilience as being tough or unfeeling, as if strong individuals don't get scared, angry, or sad. But the truth is that resilient people experience emotions just as intensely as anyone else. What sets them apart is that they don't let those emotions dictate their actions or cloud their judgment. They have trained themselves to respond instead of react, to pause before making decisions, and to channel their feelings in ways that support their growth instead of sabotage it. Emotions are powerful forces. Fear can paralyze, anger can destroy relationships, and sadness can sap motivation. But emotions themselves are not the enemy. They are signals, information about what is happening within and around us. Emotional regulation is about interpreting those signals wisely and deciding what to do with them. For example, fear may signal risk, but instead of letting fear stop you entirely, regulation helps you assess whether the risk is manageable. Anger may highlight injustice, but instead of lashing out destructively, regulation allows you to channel that energy into constructive change. Sadness may reveal loss, but regulation helps you acknowledge the pain without allowing it to define your future. One of the core practices in emotional regulation is pausing before reacting. In moments of stress, the natural tendency is to react impulsively, snapping at a colleague, shutting down in silence, or making rash decisions. But resilience requires a different approach. Taking a breath, stepping back, or even counting to 10 creates space between emotion and action. That space is where clarity is born. In that pause, you can ask yourself questions. What am I really feeling? Why am I feeling it? What response would help me and what response would hurt me? The ability to pause and reflect instead of reacting automatically is one of the strongest indicators of resilience. Another important aspect of emotional regulation is self-awareness. You cannot manage emotions you don't recognize. Resilient individuals pay close attention to their inner world. They notice when stress is rising, when frustration is simmering, or when hopelessness is creeping in. This awareness doesn't eliminate the feeling, but it gives them the chance to intervene early before the emotion takes over completely. Journaling, mindfulness practices, or simply checking in with yourself throughout the day can strengthen this awareness. By naming the emotion, saying to yourself, I am feeling anxious, or I am feeling disappointed, you create distance from it. You are no longer consumed by the emotion, you are observing it, and from that position, you can decide what to do next. Resilient people also understand that emotions are temporary. In the heat of anger or the depths of sadness, it can feel as though the emotion will last forever. But emotional regulation reminds you that feelings rise and fall like waves. Recognizing the temporary nature of emotions prevents you from making permanent decisions based on temporary states. For example, someone overwhelmed with frustration at work might be tempted to quit impulsively, but emotional regulation allows them to acknowledge the frustration, process it, and then make a more thoughtful choice about how to address the underlying problem. Techniques such as deep breathing, meditation, or grounding exercises are practical tools that support emotional regulation. These practices calm the nervous system, lower stress hormones, and restore a sense of control. When the body calms, the mind follows, making it easier to think clearly. Resilient individuals use these tools not as quick fixes, but as part of their daily lives. They know that regulation is not just for crisis moments. It is a skill that grows stronger with practice, like a muscle. It is also important to remember that regulation does not mean suppression. Suppressing emotions, pretending you are fine when you are not, or pushing feelings down until they erupt later, is unhealthy and counterproductive. True regulation is about acknowledgement and management. It allows you to feel fully while still making conscious choices about your actions. Someone grieving a loss, for instance, might allow themselves to cry, talk about their feelings with others, and honor the pain while also reminding themselves that they can take steps to heal. That balance between expression and control is what gives resilience its power. Emotional regulation also extends to how we interact with others. In times of conflict, resilience often shows up as the ability to stay calm and listen even when emotions run high. Instead of escalating arguments, resilient individuals practice empathy, seeking to understand before responding. This approach not only preserves relationships, but also prevents unnecessary stress. By managing their own emotions, they create space for constructive dialogue and solutions. Finally, practicing emotional regulation builds resilience because it strengthens self-trust. Each time you face a difficult emotion and manage it well, You prove to yourself that you are capable of handling challenges without being consumed by them. That proof becomes a foundation of confidence. You begin to trust your ability to navigate future storms, knowing that while emotions will always be part of the journey, they do not have to control the direction. In this way, emotional regulation becomes a core pillar of resilience. It transforms emotions from overwhelming forces into guides, from barriers into teachers. Instead of fearing your feelings, you learn to respect them, listen to them, and then choose the response that serves you best. With practice, this skill allows you to remain steady even when life feels chaotic, and it ensures that your emotions, no matter how strong, become tools for growth rather than obstacles to your progress. Resilience is not a gift reserved for a chosen few. It is a skill that anyone can build, a mindset that can be nurtured day by day. Through reframing adversity, practicing gratitude, creating stabilizing routines, building strong connections, and learning to regulate emotions, we equip ourselves with tools that allow us to face life's storms without losing our center. Each of these practices is simple on its own, but together they form a powerful foundation that makes us stronger, steadier, and more adaptable. The truth is, challenges will never disappear. Life will always bring moments of uncertainty, loss, and difficulty. But what we can control is how we meet them. A resilient mind doesn't break under pressure. It bends, it adapts, and it grows. And every time we rise after a setback, we not only prove our own strength, we also inspire others to believe in theirs. So as you walk forward from this moment, remember this: resilience isn't about never falling. It is about never staying down. It is the daily choice to keep standing, keep learning, and keep moving forward, no matter what comes your way.